Tonight, results from closely watched primary races in 6 states, including the most expensive House race in the country, where a Republican critic of the White House lost his seat to a Trump-backed challenger. Also, the extraordinary deal that prevents the IRS from pursuing tax claims against the president, his family, or his businesses. And the acting attorney general and the vice president defend a nearly $1.8 billion legal fund that could benefit Trump's closest allies as the 11th hour gets underway on this Tuesday night. Good evening once again. I am Stephanie Ruhle, and I just want to start by thanking the New York Knicks for not just winning their game tonight, but winning about 45 seconds ago, so I could at least have a few viewers in New York tonight, because I'm pretty sure this whole town was watching the game. But let's get to the news. We are now 168 days away from the midterms, and it was the busiest primary election day so far this midterm year. And it was one in which the president's endorsement power was again put to the test. We saw that tonight in the state of Kentucky, where incumbent Republican Congressman Thomas Massie was defeated by Trump-backed challenger Ed Galbraith. Massie served, of course, 7 terms in the House and was largely aligned with Trump for a very long time. But recently, he has been an outspoken critic of Trump's war in Iran. And you, of course, remember he partnered with Democrats to force the release of the Epstein files. The push to unseat Massie resulted in the most expensive House primary we have seen in years, which he spoke to supporters about after conceding earlier tonight.
For 14 years, those SOBs in Washington tried to buy my vote. They couldn't buy it. Why did the race get so expensive? Because they decided to buy the seat. If the legislative branch always votes with the president, we do have a king. But if the legislative branch and the representatives and the senators that serve with it always follow the Constitution, we have a republic.
There was at least one person I heard crying in the room. This defeat comes just days after Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Cassidy lost his primary to a Trump-backed candidate, in large part because of his 2021 vote to impeach the president. And there was another political bombshell earlier today. Ahead of the Texas primary next week, Trump endorsed State Attorney General Ken Paxton rather than longtime incumbent Republican Senator John Cornyn. For much more on tonight's primary results, you know who we are going to. My dear friend and partner, Ali Velshi, chief data correspondent here at MS Now, host of the show Velshi. But in just a few weeks, he's going to be sitting in this very seat because he is soon to be your anchor for the 11th hour. But until then, our friend is at the big board. Okay, Ali.
Yeah.
Another election night confirms Trump's grip on his party. Break tonight down for us.
It's kind of amazing when you look at some of the things that have happened. You just heard from Thomas Massie a couple of moments ago in Kentucky. Thomas Massie, hang on, I'm just trying to get to where he is. This is the 4th District of Kentucky. 99% of the votes in. Less than he's lost by. Oh, this thing's moving all over the place today. He's lost by 10 points to a Trump-nominated candidate. So Donald Trump, like he's shown in Louisiana with Cassidy's defeat, with those Indiana state senators, when he backs somebody, he may have very little support. He may have 30%, 30 to 37% support. But boy, he's got 100% of that 30 or 37%. So that's kind of one of the interesting things we saw tonight. We saw another few things. We saw in Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, again, he is unopposed. He's going to be the gubernatorial candidate, but that had some impact on Pennsylvania Democrats. We saw in Georgia, Keisha Lance Bottoms will advance to become the gubernatorial candidate. She was the mayor of Atlanta. And we saw, you see, we're resetting the board here. You also
I just want to point out, Ali.
Yeah, this is not.
Okay, I just want to point out.
Yeah.
Ali Velshi is our new chief data analyst, okay? It is one of the most difficult technical jobs we have. And my friend, my love, my partner is standing in front of a completely blank white screen. If you did not think that this man was a hero before, he's certainly a hero tonight. This is tough work you're doing.
We'll
So
get you some pictures, but I can tell you the story even without it. Did you saw the
Oh my God, it's just getting worse. Now it's black. Now it's completely black line. Let's just make it worse.
It's a good thing this is taped. And we can fix it.
You know, just replay the Knicks. Okay, keep going, Allie.
So in Georgia, what's really interesting is there was a straight Supreme Court election, and they're not partisan. So you know that there's a liberal candidate and a conservative candidate, and there were two of these positions. In one of the cases, the conservative candidate won. In the other case, the liberal candidate is in the lead, but there's something going on in Georgia that's really interesting. I would have thought that it'd be resolved by now, and it might be in just a second when I check on what's going on here. We are waiting for I think we've got it here, Fulton County votes to come in. So let's take a look and see if we've got them right now. Fulton County, right outside of Georgia, is the one place where we've been waiting for. Yes, I've got it now. So look at the.
God bless you.
There we go. All right. So we've got Fulton County votes in. We got 70% of the votes in Georgia. As I said, Keisha Lance Bottoms is now declared the gubernatorial candidate. Now let's take a look at this interesting Supreme Court election I was just telling you about. We were waiting to see what the results would be. 76% of the results in. Miracle Rankin, who is the liberal candidate. Again, they're not ranked as Democrats or Republicans in this particular race. She's reduced her. She's reduced the amount that she's behind by about 118,000 votes. There are still a bunch of counties, all these yellow ones, we haven't seen votes in. So this one's going to be closer than we thought. The other Supreme Court race in Georgia, the more conservative candidate, who was also the incumbent, has won in that case. So this is a lot of different results all over the place in this election. The one other takeaway is in the House elections, the Democratic primary in Georgia 14. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene's old district. Sean Harris, who won and lost this in the last election, will go forward as the Democratic candidate.
He's the farmer.
He's a cattle rancher, and he's a former brigadier general. I think 30 plus, maybe 40 years in the military. So a lot of appeal to Republicans. And in the GOP primaries in the same district, Clay Fuller, who's the guy who did win that special election, he's now the member of Congress in place of Marjorie Taylor Greene. He will also be the Republican candidate going forward. The interesting thing to note is that that Sean Harris did better than you would have expected in that last election. So we wouldn't normally be talking about one of the most rural districts, most Trumpy districts in the country, having a competitive person in the Democratic candidate. So just a lot of interesting things happening around the country. But Thomas Massie has 7 more months to go as the Republican member of Congress for the 4th district in Alabama, and he is definitely going to use it all. He's going to be noisy.
But just think quickly, Allie, before we go, Thomas Massie lost tonight, but Republicans lost tonight. When you think about how much money this Trump and Trump allies were forced to spend to back his opponent, right? This not necessarily isn't just about Trump's grip on Kentucky voters. It's the amount of money that Trump and Trump allies were able to raise to ensure that Thomas Massie, who has spent the last year and a half fighting to get the Epstein files released, how much money they put behind this race to get this guy out of office.
It's one of the most expensive races in the history of House races. In
Kentucky.
Yes. So this is exactly right. Every time it's working for Trump in some instances, but it's taking a lot of money. You know, in Texas, he's just endorsed Ken Paxton over John Cornyn. The Senate would like John Cornyn, a more traditional Republican, to win that race. Donald Trump's investing in Paxton. That was one of the most expensive Senate races in history. So Donald Trump still has a great deal of control. He's still the most influential Republican in the country by a lot, and he's still having some victories, but each one, as you point out, is costing more and more money, and that's money that's not going to other candidates.
And it's working in the primaries. It's a different story come the general. Allie, thank you. And for you at home, if you use social media, send this man a post right now. Thank him for doing this work. I mean, being the chief data analyst without any data is a feat I could not complete. All right, let's get smarter with the help of our leadoff panel this evening. Jeff Mason is here, Washington correspondent and senior member of the White House and politics team at Bloomberg, where they are pretty good at data. Larry Sabato is here, director at the Center for Politics, a UVA professor and presidential historian, and Miles Taylor, former chief of staff for the Department of Homeland Security during the first Trump administration. He's also founder of Defiance.org. Larry, you know I'm turning to you first. We know that for both parties, it is the most committed voters who come out for midterm primaries. But in these most recent ones, where Trump-backed candidates raised a huge amount of money and those candidates are winning, how are you assessing what we're seeing here?
Well, the real impact is among Republicans who may have been swaying a little bit about Trump, both in the general population, but especially in public office. I mean, the message sent by Trump defeating 5 of 7 Indiana state senators and defeating a 2-term U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy in Louisiana, and now defeating Tom Massey, who has survived other challenges over the years, and he's been around a long time. The effect of all that is to basically take any Republicans in the House or Senate and other places and tell them, maybe I'd better wait to show any dissent until Trump is out of office. He is true. He's not the king of America, but he is the king of the Republican Party. They might as well rename it the Trump Party. That is what the election tells us. But it's not a new message. We've heard this for years, but every now and then you have to reinforce it, and that's what Trump has done.
Jeff, who's writing these big checks to push Thomas Massey out of office? These weren't Kentucky Republicans.
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that, but it's certainly people who support President Trump. And no doubt President Trump is delighted to see that, because as Larry rightly said, this absolutely underscores the power that he continues to have over his party. I had to chuckle a little bit when he said, Larry, when you said that maybe they should change the name of the party to the Trump Party, because President Trump would probably welcome that. He likes putting his name on things. I'm sure he wouldn't object to a name change for his own party as well. But broadly, to your question, Steph, the money is coming in the same way that the votes are coming, and that's from people and from supporters who continue to see President Trump as the be-all, end-all of the Republican Party and the future of the Republican Party, even though his polling broadly with Americans, not just with his party members, but broadly with independents, with Democrats nationally, is extremely low and puts him in a vulnerable position and his party in a vulnerable position for November. But not in terms of these primaries now and in choosing the people who will be running against those Democrats, rather, in that crucial November election.
Miles, I'm guessing you feel a certain kinship or connection to Thomas Massey. You were once part of the first Trump administration. You have since come out as a clear, vocal opponent of this president. Massey tried to thread a needle, saying that Republicans could support both him and President Trump, despite all his vocal criticisms. He couldn't thread it, or it's not possible.
He couldn't thread it because you can't thread that needle. And look, I'll say this. Thomas Massey and I are both more conservative than Donald Trump. I mean, we're both libertarian conservatives. Donald Trump doesn't even know the meaning of that. He doesn't understand the foundations of conservatism. But here's what's going to happen, because Donald Trump's revenge always backfires. This happened in his first administration. All the people he fired, all the folks of conscience that he pushed out and he wanted gone from his administration, all the Republicans he tried to get thrown out in his first 2 years in office and those midterms, guess what? They came back to haunt him in the back 2 years as he was trying to advance his agenda, as he was trying to run for re-election. He made a lot of enemies throughout his revenge tour. And you are going to see that, not in the long term, in the near term, with Senator Cassidy, with Representative Massey. They're not going to be gone from the body this year. They're going to be serving there the rest of the year before Donald Trump is likely to lose at least one of those chambers. Those gentlemen are going to wield a lot more influence, and Donald Trump's revenge will backfire. Also, by the way, this is not a clear victory for the president. We're talking about primaries. And more radical MAGA candidates are now going to have to go win in a general election. Every time Donald Trump wins in one of these primaries with a more radical MAGA candidate that's going to be on the ballot, he's actually making it harder for him and his movement to hold on to control in November. So this is not some massive win politically for Donald Trump. It may be within the party in the MAGA fights, but again, mark my words, the revenge will boomerang.
Larry, what do you think? Miles says Donald Trump doesn't even know what true conservatism is, but I would argue he doesn't have to know what it is, because it's what it was. He's redefined what it is, and the party's fallen in line for the most part. Lindsey Graham said it on Sunday. It is the party of Trump.
Yeah, well, he would know. But that's absolutely the case. Essentially, you have one person dictating the philosophy of one of the two great parties in the United States. And it's so built around him that essentially, if you're in public office and you want to remain there and win these conservative Republican primaries with relatively low turnout, then you must genuflect. In fact, forget about genuflection. You must kneel permanently in front of Donald Trump. It's something we have rarely seen. Someone the other day on your network, I believe, compared Trump to FDR, the Republican FDR. Let me tell you something. The low point for FDR in his long presidency were the primaries of 1938. He lost those primaries. He went after conservative Democrats who had opposed him on various things, and he lost. He didn't have this ability that Donald Trump has. But I agree completely that these are primaries, and most of them are closed primaries. You don't have independents participating. You certainly don't have Democrats. The New York Times poll and almost all the other polls have shown the same thing. But the New York Times poll had Trump's approval at 37%. That is one of the two important numbers from that poll. The other one, which I think is even more important, is the Democrats now have between a 10 and 11 point lead in the generic ballot for the upcoming congressional contests. If it holds, if it's anything close to the 10 to 11%, then Democrats will certainly win the House, and they have a decent chance, maybe a good chance, to win the Senate.
Jeff, could Democrats pick up that Senate seat down in Texas? There's some Senate Republicans that are angry, quietly angry, about Trump backing Paxton. There's a lot of enthusiasm for James Tallarico. President Obama is behind him.
Yeah, certainly Democrats are at least cautiously optimistic about that. Reality check, they haven't won statewide in 3 decades. And I can tell you that I remember at the end of the Obama years, there were a handful of Obama staff members who moved to Texas and started a group with the intention of turning Texas purple, and said it was going to be done within, I think back then they said within a decade. That has just simply not proven to be the case. That said, Paxton's endorsement now from President Trump puts the more controversial Republican candidate up against the Democrat, and that could help Democratic chances. I mean, Tallarico he's kind of a conservative Democrat, you could say. He's certainly a religious Democrat, and those are themes that are popular in Texas. But he's still got an uphill battle to win an election there as a non-Republican.
Miles, I would argue the most important part of elections is that they're free and fair. Today, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche was pressed on why a DOJ election security task force was disbanded. Are you concerned about election security this year?
Yeah, deeply concerned.
How concerned are you? I'm not going to say are you. How concerned on a 1 to 10?
Off the charts concerned, because Donald Trump has already shown us this year his willingness in Fulton County, where Allie was just pointing to it on the board, his willingness to go in and seize ballots. This was the great fear that folks had in 2020. Donald Trump himself said in January that he regrets not sending the National Guard in to seize ballots when it looked like he was going to lose. A man who admits that is admitting he's willing to commit a crime. So I'm very worried about that. But here's the thing. That election security task force that was set up when I was in the first Trump administration, the whole election security architecture we set up was focused on protecting America against foreign adversaries meddling in our elections like the Russians in 2016. And to our dismay, that structure we had set up was woefully inadequate if the person attacking our elections was the president of the United States himself. Now, I will say, Stephanie, though, that there's not a lack of opposition to what's happening with Donald Trump. In fact, one of the things that we announced today at defiance.org is an effort that we launched called Fight Against Federal Overreach, FAFO. These are local prosecutors across America who announced this morning if Donald Trump does things like send ICE agents to the polls to intimidate voters, those local prosecutors are going to sue them. They're going to charge them. They're going to put them in jail if they engage in illegal voter intimidation. We're talking about big city district attorneys around this country who are saying, no, 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 no. We read the Constitution also. You can't do this. So folks are stepping up against these things. They're preparing for what the Trump administration might try to do.
I thought FAFO stood for something else. I guess I was wrong. Miles, you're so fired up. I'm going to ask you to stick around. Larry, Jeff, thank you for joining us tonight. When we come back right after the break, the president sued his own government, and he settled for a nearly $2 billion deal. Now we're learning there was a whole lot more in the fine print that quietly slipped in. So let's not let it be quiet. Let's get loud. And later, 3,500 trades in 3 months. Call him the stock trader-in-chief. What Trump's financial disclosures really show us about where he was investing his money and why that is raising serious eyebrows and a whole lot of red flags. The 11th hour just getting underway on a big Tuesday night in New York City.
So how are you feeling about your current money manager?
Well, I feel like we've outgrown them.
Well, she's right. Our lives have changed, and we need more than just mutual funds to help us in retirement.
I understand. At Fisher Investments, we get to know you, your goals, lifestyle, and needs, and then tailor a portfolio just for you.
That's good to hear. Can you help with estate planning?
Yes, and we can also help you with Social Security, investment income, tax-efficient strategies, and more.
Wow.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Pressure. We invade France Monday.
We are faced with 2 aggressive storms. Call Eisenhower.
We have a small window, but the timing must be perfect.
Send my men into the storm.
He'll never see it coming.
We will accept nothing less than full victory.
Pressure, the untold true story of D-Day. Rated PG-13, only in theaters May 29th, with special engagement at Dolby Cinema.
Sarah Benzino, Brandon Coley, Jablonski Auto Body, LLC.
Yeah! Woo! What'd she call Harper?
Oh, you mean Jablonski Auto Body, LLC.
We actually sold the Twins naming rights.
You know, like stadiums do. Kids are so expensive these days. Here he comes.
Oasis Breeze Tan and Spa.
Yeah! If you need a tan, I'm your man.
Could do business with you.
Or we can look at some investment options for you.
Works for us.
The right money moves aren't as absurd as you think.
Dry, tired, itchy, burning. My dry eye symptoms got worse over time. My eye doctor explained the root was inflammation. Xiidra was made for that, so relief is lasting.
Xiidra treats the signs and symptoms of dry eye disease. Don't use if allergic to Xiidra and seek medical help if needed. Common side effects include eye irritation, discomfort, blurred vision, and unusual taste sensation. Don't touch container tip to your eye or any surface. Before using Xiidra, remove contact lenses and wait 15 minutes before reinserting.
Dry eye over and over. It's time for Xiidra.
And Doug.
Thank you both for coming in. I'm a bit worried about Doug Jr. I know how important Liberty Mutual is to your family.
They customize car insurance to save people hundreds.
Right. Well, Doug Jr. keeps writing this.
This Jr.
Well, at least he spelled insurance right?
He did not.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
My life!
We knew our last Verbo was going to be incredible. We didn't know the hot tub was broken.
Or that our daughter's going through a phase.
Hot tub's busted.
I'm on it.
But Verbo had our backs, and with Verbo Care, they moved us. Better place, better hot tub.
The water's real hot, huh, honey? Daughter's about the same.
Teenagers are full of surprises.
Got any room for dad?
Ew, think again, Bruce.
Yeah.
A vacation rental from Verbo is not. If you know, you Verbo.
Rubbing, bleaching, ever clean.
Not me. I called Bath Fitter.
Creating unnecessary problems.
Not me. I called Bath Fitter. Make the smart move. Call Bath Fitter and save up to $500 in upgrades.
Hooray, hooray!
Lumi launched a spray. I'm Dr. Shannon Klingman, the OBGYN that created Lumi. And this spray will once again change the deodorant game. Unlike other spray deodorants made with mostly alcohol, Lumi's water-based. Empowered by mandelic acid, it's so gentle that during clinical testing, not one woman experienced burning or irritation on pits, feet, or privates. Plus, it's quick drying. Way to go, Lumi. Clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours. Spray it up, down, all around. The truly touchless way to Lumi. For the best deals, go to lumideo.com.
I won this skydiving package on Deal Dash.
Lori won $2,000 Tiffany earrings for just $1, and Joseph won an iPad.
We already knew Donald Trump's settlement with the IRS included a $1.776 billion fund for victims of so-called weaponization by the Biden Justice Department. But that is not all. There was some fine print that we need to underline, highlight, and shout it from the rooftops. Today, we learned that the settlement also bars the IRS from investigating Trump, his relatives, and his businesses. That means the agency must drop any and all audits. Well, today, Vice President J.D. Vance was asked about who could benefit from the huge settlement fund, including people who participated in the January 6th attack on the Capitol, the rioters. And here's what he said.
We're not trying to give money to anybody who attacked a police officer. We're trying to give money, not give money, we're trying to compensate people where the book was thrown at them, they were mistreated by the legal system. Is $1 of this money going to the Trump administration? No. Is $1 of this money going to Donald Trump personally? No. Is $1 of this money going to Donald Trump's family? No.
Okay, then Miles Taylor is still with us. If you thought he was fired up in the last segment, buckle up. Okay, you ready? The president personally might not get any of this money, but his allies who control who get it, and he is getting an enormous benefit with this free pass from the IRS for him, his family, and his businesses. What in the world is going on here?
First of all, J.D. Vance doesn't know. Okay, I can tell you that unequivocally. J.D. Vance does not know what Donald Trump is going to do with this because J.D. Vance doesn't wield any authority whatsoever over this little ATM commission that the president has created inside the federal government. None whatsoever, zilch. We don't need to listen to anything that J.D. Vance says.
Well, hold on. He has a lot on his plate.
Yeah.
He's the current vice president of the United States of America, and he's the fill-in press secretary. So he's busy.
He's busy, but with zero legal authority to decide what actually happens with this money. And I can promise you, J.D. Vance's interests are very different than Donald Trump's interests. And I'm going to tell you a story, Steph. And I've told this story before, but it is illustrative of how Donald Trump views these things. It was early 2019. I was meeting with him in the Oval Office, and the president gave me a piece of advice from his career in business. He said, you know, when you threaten to sue people, they just say, psh, and they blow you off, and they just keep doing what they're doing. But when you sue them, they settle. And that's how you get leverage. That is how Donald Trump has governed. That is definitionally what Donald Trump has done in this case, but remarkably, he has sued himself and settled with himself using our taxpayer dollars. And then, of course, as you know, Steph, it's worse because there's this addendum, but go ahead.
He sued himself and he settled with himself. And our Department of Justice is letting it happen. When this settlement was announced, the Treasury Department's top attorney resigned. Now, he did not make a comment. He did not say this is why he resigned. But deductive reasoning would tell you this person said enough is enough. Is he the only one? Like right now, I am searching. I'm searching today. I'm like, where's Jay Clayton? Right. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, former head of the SEC. Where are conservative Republicans? Where's Scott Besson here? No one is saying boo about this. It's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, it goes to the conversation we had in the last segment about these elections and Donald Trump's Darth Vader-like chokehold over the Republican Party. It's going to be cold comfort. I was messaging with someone inside of Treasury today who said the mood is very dark. And I responded, well, maybe some more people should come out and say that. that text message was met with silence in return. I am hoping that more people do step forward, Steph. But look, they screened people to come into this administration to do exactly this, to do what Todd Blanche did, to do things that are obviously illegal. Make no mistake. This is the biggest heist in American history, not the biggest act of presidential corruption or, the biggest amount of money stolen inside. No, the biggest heist in American history in both money and magnitude. I want to remind you of something. All right, the Federalist Papers were the essays that sort of outlined why the founders built the federal government the way they did. James Madison in Federalist 58 said, the most effective weapon against tyranny in the United States was the appropriations power, and the fact that the Congress was given that power and not the executive branch, the most effective against tyranny. He didn't say against corruption or illegal acts. He said it would be tyranny if the executive could create its own money source and spend it how it wants. This is what happened. I don't say that lightly. The founders are rolling over in their graves, and you have not heard the last of this. This will be, if Democrats introduce articles of impeachment, this will likely be item number 1 on those articles. And the other thing I would note is this Todd Blanche addendum that allows Donald Trump to go the rest of his life without being investigated and hypothetically without having to pay taxes again in his life. That's not going to be honored by a future administration. Mark my words, it'll be challenged in court well before we have to get to a future administration deciding whether to honor that agreement.
All right, then, Miles, I leave you with this suggestion. You could text back your friend at the Treasury who said things are so dark. You know what they have the opportunity to do? Turn on the lights. Miles, thank you for joining me tonight.
It's my next message. Thanks, Steph.
New reporting on Trump's stock trading spree reveals tens of millions of dollars worth of trades with the Magnificent Seven, companies often promoted by the president, with CEOs he spent a whole lot of time with in the last few months. Money, Power, Politics. That's next.
It looks like an ordinary staircase, but when you have pain in places like your arms, hands, legs, and feet, even